when you are with the right man, it's easy.
It's so easy.
It's easy. And that is the main difference between being with the wrong person and being with the right person. And it only has to happen one time. And so, so many clients, they don't really understand that feeling. And they're like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, what do you mean easy? It's like, you will know it when you have it. Okay. All of this confusion, all of this heartache, all of this, like trying to force someone to show up, to be there for you, to want to see you. That does not happen with your husband. Mm-hmm. Not even a little bit. Your husband is going to be clear and intentional. And so if you are in that dating phase and you're confused, know that, okay? Start from that point. If you are with somebody and you are constantly confused, that is just not your person, and it is okay to walk away. But it really requires the ladies to focus on themselves and work on their self-love, because if you have not done that, you may have already met your husband and you are not going to see them for who they are because you're not ready to.
So girls, before we dive in, I need your help. We are on a mission to get the Relationship Restored channel to 100,000 subscribers. And the best part is it's completely free for you, but it means the world to us. So if you're watching and loving the episodes, hit that subscribe button. Oh, and one more thing, I can't forget to mention our Relationship Restored online community. Inside, you'll find dedicated chat rooms, daily content, exclusive events, and retreats, all designed to help you build the best relationship with others and, most importantly, with yourself. It's truly a place for the girls. So join today at relationshiprestored.com/community. Hey girls, it's Bre
and Cece,
and you're tuned into For the Girls. Today's guest is a certified life coach, a self-love coach, an Army veteran, and attorney, and I am so excited to have her because she is a personal friend to Cece and I. So before we introduce her, let me just give you a little backstory. I think I first met Lauren at, was it Mother's Day or was it Capri's birthday?
I think a little bit before that, we had a couple's like
game
night at my house.
Yeah. Okay. All I remember is like we fell in love instantly with Lauren and DJ. And we were like, we like them. We need to hang out with them again. And so glad that we did because they are one of our good friends now. And Lauren is pregnant with a little baby boy. She already has a daughter, Anjali, who is the cutest sweetest thing.
Gosh, she's so cute.
If you guys watch our Airbnb couples staycation, they are featured there. They actually won, which me and Dre were very heartbroken. They won the couples Olympics. So, shout out to y'all. But we're excited to have Lauren on because we have so many things to talk about with her. But specifically, we're going to be talking about raising your standards in dating, in relationships, and in life in general. So, Lauren, please start us off by sharing with the girls, how in the world did you go from attorney, Army vet to certified life coach and self-love coach? Like, what has that journey been like for you?
Wow, that was quite the intro. First, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Being here with you two beauties, you don't know, I have been manifesting this moment since we met that day, okay? So honestly, like meeting you girls that day meant so much to me, and you don't really realize that, I felt really new to DC at that point. I had just moved from California, and it felt like, oh, here's my ladies, here's my people. And like they have husbands who are amazing. Our husbands get along, they have kids. And it just really felt like such a welcoming environment. Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. Girl, we love you. We love you. Oh, so I just want to get up and hug her and rub her belly. It's funny because before we started filming, Lauren was like, you can't even tell I'm pregnant. And then she like stands up with this big old belly.
Should I show it?
Yes, please show it. How good does she look?
Little baby boy.
Thank
little
you
baby
so
boy.
much. Well, it definitely feels good to get dressed up and be hanging out with you ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, you
so
look
thank
gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
So that's quite the intro. So as they said, yes, I am a self-love coach. I work with beautiful, professional women of color who have really gotten to the top of their game in their professional career and have gone through life with the expectation naturally that the love of their life was going to show up in front of them, because that's kind of what we see on TV. You're just going to have a little meet cute, find your person. Yeah. You're going to meet happily ever after and go about your business. But unfortunately, for most women, it does not work out that way. And if you're anything like me, it requires some serious self-reflection, some serious work, Because if you don't do that work, you find yourself ending up in the same tired dating situations with
like less than qualified men that that aren't meeting your standards, which we will talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so many women are going out there and they're like, let me just date based on looks and vibes, and I'm going to find my person. I'm going to see what's out there. And unfortunately, when you go to see what's out there, you are going to see it is not pretty. Okay.
Especially like kind of to your point, there's a lot of women nowadays that have put a lot of focus into their career and into themselves. So I feel like when they're at a moment in their life that they're ready to kind of settle down, they're actually starting to look at the pool of fish and they're like, oh gosh, like where do I even start?
Or all the good men are taken.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely the thing I hear so often from a woman that I'm like, you're single. Who has not scooped you up? And she's like, girl, well, where are all the good men? Because all the good men are taken. So what made you decide, especially from being an attorney and being in the Army, like what was the pivotal moment of like, you know what? Because I picture you telling DJ like, so guess what? I actually want to be a life coach. Like what happened in your life that made that be your decision?
Well, first of all, when you find the love of your life and you are with somebody that sees you for who you are and respects you, and you're living, I don't want to say the soft life is kind of overused, but you are living a soft, comfortable life. You have the opportunity to step out of survival mode and say, okay, this is great, but now I actually want more. And so for me, that started with working with a coach. I am such a big proponent of working with a coach in every facet of my life. Like we have a sleep coach for Angelique. I have a doula to help me push these babies out. Okay. I worked with a business coach, a life coach. And so first and foremost, I started with a career coach because like most attorneys, I was not loving my day-to-day experience. You know, it's a grind, and most of the people that you're working with in the attorney field are unhappy. And so I didn't want to be around unhappy people. And so I knew that I wanted to work with women, but like in what capacity? So we sat down and she straight read me like a book. She was like, okay, listen, honey, you are an attorney because you needed security and comfort after growing up in your family. My family's entrepreneurs. And she was like, you didn't want to be an entrepreneur. You went out and you found the most secure job you could have. You are an attorney. You're in the military. You work for the government.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang.
Like, I didn't even really recognize that about myself.
Yeah.
Like
and
why you chose that path.
Absolutely. Because I was like, I don't want to deal with ups and downs. I don't want the insecurity of not knowing. I want to find the most secure path. My check is going to come. That is not so true right now. The federal government's going through its things. But at that point, being with the government was very secure.
Yeah.
And so working with the coach, she helped me realize that I actually want more. I can reach for more. And then just having that loving, supportive foundation of a husband there with me. And I just literally did mind mapping of what type of work do I want to do with these women? Who do I want to be around? And reflecting back on my life and everything that I went through in trying to find my husband, because we did not really get together until we were in our 30s. I realized that I had a lot of information to share on what I learned along my journey of finding him. And I had a lot more clarity on when I was talking to women, when I was talking to my friends and they were sharing what was going on in their dating world. I could see so clearly the person that they're sharing and talking about, like, that guy's not even that into them. And they are so worried about this guy. Yes.
Don't we see that time and time again, where it's like you see a lot of beautiful, smart, educated, career-driven women who are with men that it's just like, girl, that's not your guy. But they're kind of like blinded by maybe he's just really handsome, or maybe he has money, or, you know, maybe they like the idea of him, the potential of him, but it's like, do you even really know like your true desires, your true values, and your true standards for what you're actually, what you need in a man for you?
And, you know, unfortunately, I feel like it takes kind of hitting rock bottom sometimes for some women. I know for sure that's what happened with me. It was like, when you're in this space of looking up in the sky and being like, why is this happening to me? And like, do I deserve this? And really being like, I know that there's something better out there for me. Like there has to be a feeling of feeling better than this. At the end of the day, I could be bad all by myself. Why do I feel so bad and with this person? If I just left and was alone, being alone is better than being with someone and being mistreated. So I do want to talk about, and I know as a friend personally that you have a history or experience with domestic violence, trauma, and just toxic relationships. Can you share a little bit about that experience and that how it kind of shaped you getting to where you are now with a loving husband?
Yeah, I definitely can. And you know, these stories and this background about me, I've actually never shared it publicly.
Yeah.
I share it privately with my clients. But so I really appreciate you giving me this platform to talk about it.
Yeah.
Domestic violence and just abusive partnerships, it's so normalized in our culture where women just expect that is how they're going to be treated, that their men are going to lie to them and their men are going to cheat on them.
Yeah.
And I definitely was one of those people. And when you expect that, when that's all you've seen around you, that's what you're going to keep calling in. And so I had a pattern of dating very handsome men that were doing well in life. Like on paper, they looked really good, tall, dark, handsome, successful job. But that's all they had going for them. At the end of the day, they weren't good people. And my expectation, they were not treating me like I deserved to be treated. And I wish I could be like, oh, they were trash and it's all their fault. But at the end of the day, I was choosing to be with these men.
Yeah, like you had to take ownership that
Yes.
you made the decision to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I got wrapped up in a relationship with a man. And at this point, I was 25. I was very naive. I had never been around substance abuse, alcohol. He was an alcoholic and he also did like drugs on the side. And so I had just no experience with that when I met him. And I fell in love with him before I realized, oh, this man has like some serious problems. And by that point, it was too late. I was in love with him. And I thought naively that if I tried hard enough, if I loved him hard enough, if I stayed with him, he needed me to help him. Yeah. And basically for years, I was in the classic abusive cycle where he would act out. And it always coincided when I had something very important going on in my life because I was in law school at this time. So was it midterms? Was it finals? And he would pick a huge fight with me. It didn't start out being physically abusive. It was more emotional abuse and the toxic fights and the screaming and just scenes. And just, I was that girl who would be standing outside of school crying on her phone, wasting all my time and energy on this man. And then he would come back, apologize, do a grand gesture. I would forgive him. And it was on and on and on like this. Until finally it culminated in a physical situation where, we were at his house and I found out had slept with somebody else and I was upset and we were arguing about it and I was trying to leave. We were supposed to like go out to brunch or something. And I was like, forget it. I'm done. I gotta go. And so I tried to leave. He wouldn't let me leave. And it turned into him physically like restraining him. And the neighbors could hear me screaming, get off me, get off me. They were like, we're going to call the cops. I was like, call the cops, call the cops. And long story short, they did call the cops. And I had never been in that type of situation. And I was just crying.
Yeah.
And when the cops showed up, I didn't say anything, because I didn't want him to get in trouble. And he had a child. I didn't want, anything to happen. So I just was like, I'm not a snitch. I just didn't say anything. And he did not take that same approach, okay?
What?
He was actually talking to the police and he made up a whole story that I had slapped him, that I was jealous, and actually completely told a version of events that just never happened. And I didn't know at the time he had been in these type of situations before. He has been arrested for false imprisonment. He had been arrested for domestic violence. So he knew exactly what he was doing. Before the police had arrived, he fixed himself up. He put on a nice dress shirt. And I was a mess. I was in my pajamas. I was crying.
Yeah.
And so the police came over to me and they had me sitting with like a very inexperienced female police officer. She was new and she was trying to comfort me. They asked me, do you want to press charges? I said no. And all they said to me, the more experienced police officer who was running the whole thing, he said, let me see your hands. So I showed him my hands and he was looking for signs that I had hit him. Didn't know that at the time. And so I was arrested and I have this vivid memory of being in handcuffs, which is a situation I never thought that I would find myself in. And he was standing on his front porch with his neighbors smoking a cigarette. And he goes, I love you, Lauren. I love you.
How manipulative.
Let the anger go. Let the anger go. And it was in that moment, I had an out of body experience. And I was like, wow, this man does not love me and is actually going to ruin my life.
Yeah.
I was just about to graduate from law school. You know, I was trying to become a JAG attorney and literally life flashing before my eyes, like he's ruining everything that I've worked so hard for. So thank God that happened because that was the thing that I needed to help me snap out of it and realize that this man does not actually love me. He can't love me. He doesn't love himself. He mistreats himself. So how do I have this expectation that he is going to love and respect me when he doesn't love and respect himself?
Absolutely.
Do you think women typically have to reach that rock bottom point where it gets to the point of physical and like just deep mental abuse before they walk away? Like, is that what you kind of see a lot with like some of your clients? Or, and then if so, what are they to do so that it doesn't get to that point?
Yeah. So unfortunately, what I've learned through classes that I've taken, because I have worked with sexual assault victims, sexual harassment victims, domestic violence, the way that our brains work is once we have decided that somebody is our friend, like we meet somebody, we go on a date with them and we map them in our brain like, okay, Cece is my girl, she's my friend. Say down the line, you start doing shady things for me. It's very difficult for you to then see that person as enemy, as danger. And that is why it's so common that date rape happens, that these women end up in these abusive situations because their mind is like telling them, no, that's your friend. That person would not be doing this to me. And so they almost don't believe what they're experiencing. And then on top of that, you add in somebody being manipulative and able to feed into that cycle and promise you and say all the right things. You want to believe them. You love this person. And so on average, I can't remember the statistic exactly, but women stay in domestic violence situations and it takes like leaving 7 times before they actually leave.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I want to talk about that I actually don't know if I've ever shared this, which y'all know I'm very transparent, but this is just something that never has come up. But my ex pulled a shotgun out on me.
What?
Yeah. And if his mom wasn't there, I wholeheartedly believe he would have shot me. And when I left that situation, I had to ask myself, like, was there anything that happened in our relationship that would allow me to think that it could result in this? That like he would kill me or that he would even pull, like it wasn't like a little handgun, it was a shotgun. I was like,
girl.
why do you even have that?
Right.
You live in Shaker Heights. Like this is weird. But he pulled the gun out on me. And in that moment, like how you said, I had that like life flash through my eyes. Like at that moment, I was like, wow, I could not be here right now. And when I really thought about my past history, one thing I learned was that because I saw domestic violence in my household growing up, it was normalized. Like to me, that made me think that someone cares if they get so angry to the point where their emotions are that high that they're willing to hit you and then apologize after. And then it was also this thing where I thought that I could fix or change the person, and if they changed for me, that means they love me even more than like someone without those problems, right? So like I would feel more loved by it. When I got into a serious, happy, healthy relationship with Dre, I would get upset that he wouldn't argue or fight with me in a physical manner. Like there's been times where I have said things to him that were just, he would be like, why would you say that to me? Or where I like would want to like hit him, but I stopped myself because I was like, wait, why isn't he giving this back to me? And that's really when I learned that the patterns we grow up in, the household that we're in, the things that we see, it becomes our norm. So for a lot of women, we grow up seeing domestic violence in one way, shape, or another. And then when it happens in our relationship, like Lauren said, you're like, this person loves me. So the only reason why they're so angry, the only reason why they did that bad thing to me was because I did something wrong. I upset them. So it's this kind of learning routine of like, okay, how do I undo my thought process to receive and accept these things that are considered normal when in reality they're not? And therapy was one of the biggest things that it takes, speaking to a professional that, like Lauren, how she just unpacked that whole situation. The average person isn't going to do that for you. And the average homegirl can't give you psychological advice. And we can't unpack things because we're in it. We're emotional. We're connected. So it's hard to detach from that person and really look from the outside in. And so I just want anyone who's listening to this episode right now, like if you are experiencing any form of domestic violence, you need to speak to someone and you need to speak up and speak out, because what happened to Lauren in that moment of being like, you know what? No, I care about this person. I don't want to get them in trouble. That could have been the difference between you taking path 1, path 2. You know what I mean? Like speaking out and just speaking your truth could have changed the trajectory, right? And I think a lot of women may be listening to this and maybe they're scared, or maybe they're even doubting or thinking like, am I in a domestic, violence situation? If you even have to question it, I'm pretty sure the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Get out, get help. Yeah. But on to other things. I just did want to share that because I think that it's important for people to know, like, you see me and Dre now in our relationship, but like the things I've gone through is really why I cherish the relationship that I have now. Absolutely. And a lot of us go through things. So if you are going through things, there is a brighter future at the end of the tunnel. But I do want to talk about your signature program, Raise Your Standards. Like, who is that for? And kind of walk us through what you actually do in that program to help women get to the point of being able to raise their standards.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am so fortunate. I get to work with amazing professional women of color, like I shared earlier. They come to me because they are ready to make a change. They've been dating unsuccessfully for a while now. Like I said, maybe dating based on looks and vibes. And they come to me and they're like, Lauren, I'm only looking for X, Y, and Z. Like, I need help. I want to try something different. And the reason that I'm labeled a self-love coach and I'm not a dating coach, I'm not a relationship coach, is because that's where your priorities need to be. You need to be focused on making sure that your relationship with yourself and how you view yourself is where it needs to be. And so that is the bulk of what my program focuses on, helping my clients see how amazing they are, first of all, helping them value the life that they have created for themselves, and realizing that no man is worth settling for that can possibly come in and ruin what they've already created. Because that's what I really learned going through that experience, being arrested, almost losing, my career path, was that first of all, you can't save somebody else. And in fact, they are going to drag you down to hell with them.
Absolutely.
And not even feel bad about it. So I work with my clients to help them value what they have for themselves, see them in the way that I see them, the way their friends and family see them. And then also the biggest thing is that my clients walk away with so much clarity on what they are looking for in a partner. And so when you have that clarity and you go out and date, it's so much easier.
Yep. Yeah.
And when I talk about clarity, I don't mean, the superficial preferences list that we all have. I'm talking about we go through the nitty-gritty and they figure out exactly how they want to feel in their relationship, how they want their partner to make them feel, how they want their relationship together, what it looks like together. And so many women, they come to me and they feel bad, like, I'm not good at dating. They feel bad maybe because they've been single for a very long time. They haven't had a boyfriend. And I get them to understand that the goal is not to be good at dating. You don't need to be a professional dater, okay?
Right.
The goal is to keep dating until you find your person.
Yes. Yes.
You know, Lauren, I love this. I love this program. I love that you are putting you and your story out there to help other women, because I really truly think that navigating and really focusing on self-love is the foundation to getting anywhere successful in a relationship in the future. If you can't navigate self-love and you don't have the true belief in self-love and in your worth, in your value, then anybody can come to you and then try to put their own values onto you and then make it appear that that is what you deserve. And a lot of times it's not. It's what they think that you deserve for them. But it's like, no, but I know what I need for myself. So I think it's so important for women to do the hard work. Men too. Men and women need to do the hard work before they decide to get into a relationship with someone else. It's so important. If you haven't worked on yourself, if you haven't dived deep, if you haven't done the internal dialogues, if you haven't talked to a coach, if you haven't talked to a therapist, if you haven't tried to unpack all of the things, the traumas that you grew up in that are still playing out in your relationships, and you're wondering why you're still seeing these same scenarios, like how do you expect to go down a different road? How do you expect to then have a loving, healthy relationship with someone that truly supports you and then you can really build a healthy family unit about? Like, it starts with you. It starts with that foundation.
If you don't have a healthy relationship with self, how can you have it with someone else? Like, the relationship always starts with self. We talked about this before we started filming, where I told Cece, you know, I think it's a very touchy subject, where when I tell people my journey with Dre, we had a situation where I was not the woman I wanted to be yet, but I was in the process of, like, I wrote a list of 100 things that I wanted my person to have. And none of it was physical. It was all just characteristics, things of the heart, values, things I wanted to be aligned on. And I was like, okay, if this is the man I envision for my life, how do I become the woman that is going to attract that type of man?
Yes.
And I started doing the work. When I met Dre, I was nowhere near at the end of the work, but what he was able to see face value is like, this is a woman who knows she has things to work on. And I had, like, when I say, like, a whole paper list where I'm like, so here's all the things that are messed up about me, and here's all the things that I'm working on, and here's what I'm doing to work on them. And so when he saw me, he saw a woman with potential. And I think there's this issue, right, where a lot of women nowadays, they don't want a man who has potential. They want the man to have all the things figured out. And it's such BS, because at the end of the day, we all have things to figure out. We all are still growing and evolving to become who we ultimately want to be. But if you're saying that I need all these boxes to be checked and haven't done the work on yourself, why do you think that you deserve that? So it's not to say that you have to fix yourself and be this end goal version of you to find your person, but it does mean that you have to start the process. You at least have to be aware. So it sounds like, Lauren, step one is developing self-love and relationship with self and really seeing the value in who they are. After that step, what happens next?
Yeah, so definitely we spend a few weeks diving deep and getting to know them. We also look at some past experiences that they've had, and we talk about limiting beliefs. And like you said, a lot of our experiences and our values come from our childhood. And so I'm able to dive deep with my clients, ask them the right questions, and figure out what limiting beliefs they may have surrounding love, surrounding relationships, that are actually holding them back from finding the person of their dreams. So let me give you some examples. I've had clients in the past that are scared to get in relationships because they feel like they're going to lose their sense of freedom, because that's what they've seen maybe with their parents, where they just completely lose themselves. And it requires work to realize that just because that's their experience doesn't mean that has to be your experience. And if you are aware of it, and if you know that that's not what you want, you can foster the type of relationship where you still have your independence. I've had other clients where they grew up with the internal belief that their man is supposed to literally come find them, come knock on their door, and come seek them out. And so they've been very passive, and they're just waiting, and they're getting older. And then all of a sudden we work together, we identified that from their childhood. And then, you know, that particular client that I have in mind, she was able to go out and now she's in a great, healthy relationship. And she's always sending me pictures of her and her man. It's the best.
That.
And it could be something so simple like that. So we work through limiting beliefs. And then, you know, we dive into the fun part, which is, like you said, creating that list of what characteristics they're looking for, how they want to feel, how they want to be treated. And then, exactly as you said, you took yourself through the process, Bre. So that's amazing that you could do that. It's about figuring out how you can give that to yourself. Because if you are not treating yourself in that way, how can you expect somebody else to?
Ooh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I don't even think I've done that. Like making sure that I can give myself those same checklist items per se that I'm expecting a man to give me. I don't think a lot of people are doing that.
No, because it's not something you naturally like think about, but that's why you go to a coach. Like hearing that from someone else, you're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Like I don't even speak kindly to myself. And every time I have these limited beliefs, I like truly believe them and I let doubt creep in and I just am this person and this version of me, and you don't have the tools and the resources to get out of that. So that's why people like Lauren exist. Okay. Okay. So now I think that a big question, right? Because the whole standards and expectations, it's thrown out there so much. We have so many people who are talking about, like, if someone does this to you, like, leave, or if you don't have X, Y, and Z, like, you're not worth my time. How do you differentiate between setting standards and then having expectations? And how does that play itself out in the dating space? Because it's different. Like when you're married, right, you're here, so it's like we already have established a set of standards, otherwise we wouldn't have made it to marriage. And now there's expectations, and the expectations could change with marriage. But in dating specifically, how do women actually go about communicating what their standards and expectations are?
So the nice part about going through the process, and I have a great free resource for your listeners that they can download from my website. It's a workbook that will take them through asking them the questions so that they can figure out what type of partner they're looking for. Because if you, it is kind of hard if you just want to sit down and make a list by yourself. So I really make it step by step where they can go through. And so the nice part about having that list is now you can use that to guide yourself through the dating process. And so for me, I am a big proponent of telling my clients to slow down and date with intention, get to know people, and try to enjoy the process of dating. Honestly, there's really no workaround to getting to know somebody other than putting in the time to get to know them. And then as things come up and something makes you uncomfortable, something doesn't feel right, then you have the opportunity to voice that in a respectful way. You know, hey, I noticed X, Y, and Z, you know, can you tell me a little bit about that? Or, hey, you know, I don't like when you cancel plans on me last minute. And then what that does is allow the other person the opportunity to show you who they are, right? So they are either going to meet you where you're asking them to meet you. They're going to give you a clear explanation of what happened, whatever it is that's making you feel uncomfortable, like something isn't right. And so many women have trained themselves to just ignore that intuition, ignore those feelings, let it go and pretend like it didn't happen until the next situation, So what I work with my clients is to pay attention to what's going on, pay attention to how they feel, and ask themselves when they show up to a date, how is that person making them feel? And so when they are getting those uncomfortable feelings, they can, you know, broach that subject with that person. And it allows you the opportunity to get to know them better and see if they're a good fit. You are allowing the person you're dating the opportunity to step it up and show you that they're going to be a good partner. But if you don't voice something that is making you uncomfortable or that you have questions about, then you're never going to get that answer. And then you're not going to get to know somebody better.
I have a question. Okay. So of course we all need standards and expectations. However, what happens when those standards and expectations are not realistic?
Yeah. How do you do
like
that?
when they're too high, when it's like, girl, you're expecting A through Z, and it's like, baby, you may need to cut it back through A through F.
I'm gonna give an example.
Yes.
I want a man who makes over $1 million a year. I want a man who is a full-time entrepreneur and has the freedom to travel and live however. I want a man who's gonna allow me to be a stay-at-home wife, but he also needs to look good. He needs to be 6'4". He needs to not have debt. He needs to splurge on me, and he also needs to be loyal and respectful. Someone I could take home to my mom and be a good father to my kids. Like that is a loaded list.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And that's normally what I hear.
And I feel like that's a lot of women's lists nowadays, right? And men too. So we see a lot of men who look at women on social media, and these men may be great men, but they may be a 4. And they're like expecting a woman that's a 10 or an 11, you know, and it's like, boo boo, you may need to lower your expectations, lower your standards a little bit, because I just see a lot of people looking, especially on social media, on Instagram and TikTok, and they're like, oh, I see this person with this, or I see this type of man, I see this type of woman, and they're like, I can get that.
Yeah.
What happens when the standards are unrealistic?
So I'm going to be honest with you. The clients that I work with and the women that I talk to, that is not the case.
Okay. Yeah, you're trying to get them to raise them.
Well, they are just coming to me, and as women, we are givers.
Yeah.
We just want to take care of people. And the women that come to me, they're beautiful women, and they are not over here asking for, they're like, I have my money. I can do my things. So I think that's where the growth comes in. The people that you're talking about, that sounds really immature. That sounds really immature, and they're just valuing the wrong things.
Period.
And that might be harsh, but
it is what it is.
And unless you're giving those things to yourself already, then maybe you're expecting too much. And that's where it comes in. Like, if you can't give those things to yourself already, if you don't have that $1 million for yourself and you're demanding it from somebody else, then that might be a little bit unrealistic.
Yeah.
That part.
That part.
That's the part. You got, girls.
That one.
Did you hear what Lauren just said? Okay. Take a note.
Okay, so going back to your program, we talked about the first thing is kind of like self-love, self-discovery, really figuring out and learning how great of a person you are first so they can see what you see in them. Then it's really diving into past history, looking at kind of manifesting or creating that list of like the type of person that they want to attract. Is there a part of the program where you actually are involved in the dating process?
So I'm not involved in the dating process. I do give dating do's and don'ts, and I'm definitely available to my clients. But usually what I advise my clients is it's only a 10-week program. And so what I say is you can date throughout this 10 weeks, but when else are you going to take 10 weeks to focus on yourself?
Yes.
I can almost guarantee you none of my clients have done that in the past, where they are absolutely focused, waking up every day thinking, what do I need? What's important to me? And not looking to their phone to say, oh my God, did that person text me? Did I hear from them? And so they walk away from my program with a whole new mindset, and then they go out into the dating world. And so one of the ways, and another tip for your listeners, is that once you have that list and you start looking at and asking yourself, you know, am I giving these things to myself already? How can I give them these things to myself? So if you want to be with somebody who is in really great shape, how can you get in better shape, right? And so what that does, super simple, you're now placing yourself in environments where people of like mind are going to be. If you're interested in people who are in good shape, you are going to start getting yourself in better shape. You're going to be going to the gym. You're going to have the opportunity to meet somebody. And so it's about giving that to yourself and placing yourself strategically so that you can actually meet people who are going to be doing this.
I love that. So your program is like the boot camp before dating. Like really, if they just hone in the 10 weeks on self and just go through the program, it'll leave them in a great position at the end of the 10 weeks to start putting themselves out there and being able to recognize and see what it is that they're trying to attract. I love that.
Yeah. And then going back to Cece, what you were saying about like unrealistic expectations, for my clients that have very stringent, superficial preferences, one of my biggest pieces of advice is date outside of your specific preferences. So if you only want to date one specific type of race or one specific type of look or a specific height, throw that out the window for a little bit, open your mind up. And what that does is, instead of you showing up to a date and somebody's tall, dark, and handsome, and you're like, ooh, that's my type, right? So you're like, oh, I hope they like me. Do I look good? Right? You're bringing that energy, that like pick me energy, I hope, you know, that nervous. When you are showing up to a date to somebody that looks completely different than you're normally dating, you are now showing up evaluating, and you're bringing the energy of, do I like this person? And you actually have to get to know them. And you're not showing up automatically thinking like, oh yeah, this is my type, I'm into this. And so bringing that different type of energy is a total game changer.
Yes.
And that's not to say that down the line, you can go back to the more classic type of man that you're interested in. But it's after you have mastered that energy of showing up and evaluating, do I like this person? Not, oh, I hope they like me.
Yeah.
And that's the game changer. And that's the energy shift and that confidence that opens up your world.
That reminds me of Love is Blind because, you know, I'm a big Love is Blind fan. If you're watching this, Love is Blind, if you want to have me as like a guest host or, you know, just
it's really
I'm
good.
here and I love it. But so this is the first season that I have watched where I was like, wow, there's no drama. Like all the couples are, I mean, it's just it's easy. It doesn't feel like you're watching reality TV because there's no like, you know,
cattiness.
Yeah, there's no drama. And I was like, okay, wait, where are these people from? Minnesota, y'all. So I was like, well, you know, maybe that has something to do with it, right? It's like the way that people live there. It's not like a really big city. You could tell that these people all went into it with like good hearts and good genuine intentions. And so I want to talk a little bit about like the physical appearance stuff, because what you just mentioned is like, don't go on that first date with the person, like the man of your dreams, because you're going in hoping they pick you versus learning how to evaluate, is this person a good potential life partner for me? And when you think of like the Love is Blind experience, you're not seeing the person. So all you can go off of is what they're saying that they want, the past history that they have, the life that they envision for themselves. And so it's really great because that part is just stripped away from it. And I think that more people need to have those conversations. So how, if someone is going on a date and let's say they are attracted to the person, or maybe they're not attracted to the person, how can you take the physical appearance element and start working on internally, how do I care less about what someone looks like and more about what's in their heart? Do you have any practices for like how to shift your mindset in that regard?
I think first and foremost, you need to realize like life is too short. So if you are showing up, getting dressed, you need to have a damn good time. Okay. So I'm showing up to that date and I'm there to have fun, to get to know that person. And so bringing that curious energy, I think really takes a lot of the pressure off because you are there to get to know them, ask them questions. I think that is a big way to just shake it off. Give them the opportunity to show you who they are. Maybe they're funny. Maybe they're fun. Maybe they are going to take you somewhere that you meet your husband. Like the important thing, the main key that a lot of ladies miss is they want to be sitting on their couch waiting for their man to show up.
Yeah, it's like,
and
how is he going to find you there?
Listen,
step one, ladies, leave the house.
Even even what you just said about like, if you look at the date as an opportunity to just get to know someone, not like, okay, I'm going on this date because I want to meet my life partner, but I'm going on this date to meet a new person and to make a new connection, because that person could be the person that introduces you to a best friend. They could be the one to introduce you to your man. They could be the one to introduce you to a new job. Like, you just never know. And Dre has this thing that he talks about where like it's the handkerchief method, where if you're in a space and you see someone, because at the end of the day, we have to go off of appearance at a certain point, right? Because if you're in a room of crowded people, you can only go off of energy and what you see with your eyes. So let's say that there is a man who you're like, wow, that's someone I would entertain. Instead of being in the corner, you know, doing this, fake laughing with your friends, hoping he sees you, you have to actually let him know that, hey, this is a door that's open. Like, crack it slightly so he knows, like, you can open this and come through. But a lot of times women close the door and they give this energy of like, well, if he wants me, he'll come and get me. And so the handkerchief method is that you essentially create a moment to allow him to know that the door is open. So it could be as simple as walking over, like, let's say you're going to the bar and he's at the bar, go right next to him and strike up conversation as you're waiting to place your drink order. Or it's a thing of like a slight bump, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, have you been waiting long? Like, you anything like that sometimes men are just as intimidated as we are, if not more, especially if you're a beautiful woman and you're in a crowd full of your beautiful friends. You think he wants to come up and get a big no in front of you and 8 girls?
Yeah.
Like the normal man is not he's not shooting his shot because it is intimidating. So it's like, let the man know that the door is open. And when you just focus on letting your personality show and just being a kind and good-hearted woman, that man is going to notice that. And if that door is cracked and he is interested, he's going to walk right through that door. But so many times we're out here in these settings and that door is slammed shut and you like, well, if he know what's good for him, he'll come over here. Girl, how? Why?
Right.
What energy are you giving that is making him feel comfortable to do so?
Yeah. And I think so many women mistake the fact that a man of high esteem who respects himself is not out there thirsty trying to talk to every beautiful woman. There has to be something more. They're used to talking to beautiful women.
Right.
So what is it more? Why would they be interested in you? And something as simple as a smile goes a long way, because it's showing who you are. It's showing your beautiful smile. It's showing your energy. And that's what we are attracted to at the end of the day, is energy.
Amen, girl. You know, I want to make a quick note about dating a little bit outside of your idealistic type. Because I mean, from personal experience, that's literally exactly what I did. And that's exactly how I found my husband. My husband was not necessarily my type when I first came across him. However, I really took note about a guy I was dating right before him who was like tall, beautiful, muscly, you know, and then very shortly after I started dating my now husband, I really took note about the differences of how they made me feel. From that checklist, I was like, okay, this one does this, and it makes me truly internally feel less than. He's always talking about himself. He's very self-absorbed. Everything is about how he can look good, better, and how he looks good. And then fast forward to my now husband, was very much so focused on me, on like what I enjoy, and truly trying to learn about me as a person. Obviously, he saw all the good looks, but he was like, you're cute, but what about your mind?
Yes.
You know, and I think that is what really, and also just how he moved. Like, my husband has this saying that it doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine.
Hello?
He was moving different than how these other men were moving.
Yeah.
So to your point, Lauren, if I didn't like step a little bit outside of my norm and out of my comfort zone per se and give him a chance, I would have missed my opportunity to find my true soulmate and the love of my life.
Yep. And I remember the exact moment when you told me about him too. And I could tell that there was something different. I was like, okay, see, the fact that she's even willing to like step outside of her bubble and she's noticing like all the things that she was saying were things that truly mattered. And it was just, it's funny because as a friend, it like makes your heart get like excited because you're like, this might be a good one.
Girls, notice the energy shift, okay, and like really like internalize that. When you're with a man that's really not meeting your standards and expectations, but physically he has all the boxes checked, and then you're with another man that may not check all those boxes, but you're like, you have the butterflies, the conversation is flowing, like the energy is right. Focus on that.
Well, also, girls, looks will fade. Okay. We all get old. We all might have a little beer belly at some point. Things happen, life, death. Like, you know, it's so many things that happen through marriage that if you're going off of it based off of looks, you are going to be sadly let down. This was such a good conversation.
Yes.
I really want, Lauren, for you to share with our listeners how, if they're in a space where they know that, you know, they are ready to take that next step, they want to raise their standards and really truly attract what they want and what they're envisioning, or maybe they don't even know what that is yet and they want to start that process. How can they get in touch with you and your program?
Oh, I'm on the internet. You know, come find me. Instagram. I'm sure you're going to tag me on
is
all.
Beautiful, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a critic. So
Lauren Lake Esquire. You can find me on Instagram. You can find my website. I would love to connect, and I just love, you know, hearing feedback and what women are going through. But I just really want to get across, and being in a room with you two, who I know personally, your husbands, when you are with the right man, It's easy.
It's so
It is
easy.
easy.
It's easy.
It's so
And
easy.
that is the main difference between being with the wrong person and being with the right person. And it only has to happen one time. And so, so many clients, they don't really understand that feeling. And they're like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, what do you mean easy? It's like, you will know it when you have it. Okay. All of this confusion, all of this heartache, all of this, like trying to force someone to show up, to be there for you, to want to see you. That does not happen with your husband.
Nope.
Not even a little bit. Your husband is going to be clear and intentional. And so if you are in that dating phase and you're confused, know that, okay? Start from that point. If you are with somebody and you are constantly confused, that is just not your person. And it is okay to walk away, or it is okay to see what else is out there. And if they want to be more intentional and come back and let you know that they're serious. But it really requires the ladies to focus on themselves and work on their self-love, because if you have not done that, you may have already met your husband and you are not going to see them for who they are because you're not ready to.
Yes.
Hold on. Can we all do a mic drop real quick? Wow. Like, Lauren, that's a social clip right there. Okay. That is like
You guys are
the
so
perfect
cute.
social clip. That was so well said. We are just so thankful for you, your time, your energy, your craft, and your new expertise. And I'm excited for all of our girlies to connect with you and check out what you have to offer. So from the bottom of my heart, girl, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies. This has been a lot of fun. And for all your listeners, raise your standards.
Raise them standards, girl.
Wait, why did I do this? This is weird. Like, raise them. Raise them.